There's a fundamental hazard that comes out of lithium-ion batteries when they go into thermal runaway. Regardless of where the batteries are being installed, they could be in a micromobility device, they could be an electric vehicle. There's a transition towards energy storage systems. There's a lot of benefits to them. This particular scenario, it could be an energy storage system on the wall releasing flammable gas. It's the same gas hazard. So we're looking at the fundamentals of the hazard and less on the particulars of the battery technology. What we're finding so far is that there are some requirements for safety in the codes, and some of those are good, but there are some gaps that we need to address. Batteries can release some flammable gas, and the amount that they can release could potentially create an explosion hazard. So we're trying to develop some data here to reevaluate the amount that's safe to release and to understand how much gas will be released before you represent an explosion hazard that could harm the occupants or injure a firefighter doing a size-up at an incident. Right now, the code says that they have to be installed in uninhabited spaces. Obviously, you don't live in your garage, so it's a logical place that's out of the way, but it enables you to tie it into your electrical system of your home. However, it doesn't mean there's no safety risks, so we're here studying what the safety risks can be when they do fail and go into thermal runaway. We're looking at an attached two-car garage. We've simulated structurally the rest of the house. We basically looked at census data and determined that most homes today are being built with two-car garages. Most of them are attached. Most of them are set up with the roof and the rest of the structure the way we have designed it. And so this is our way of trying to get to where the bread and butter of the hazard will be. When we ran the first series of tests, we saw potential for explosions. So now we're here recreating those explosions to better understand how the hazards develop. We've seen in some of our early tests that you can release some small amount of gas that can ignite, and it doesn't exactly create an explosion hazard. But as more and more gas is released, it creates a bigger and bigger hazard. So we want to understand how much gas creates that hazard where now someone's life or well-being is at risk. Personally, I'm most concerned about the firefighter stepping off the fire truck and doing his walk around the 360 to understand the severity of the incident he's looking at and not expecting to be injured by a flying door. There's a couple different types of tests we're running. The first type of test, we're controlling the volume of the gas, the amount that comes out, and we're controlling the concentration. It tends to be a little bit more conservative than how an explosion would really occur. So we're running a series of tests after that, where instead of controlling the volume, we release it and let it accumulate inside the garage, just like would happen in a real failure scenario. That enables us to cover what's the worst possible hazard. And then as we move towards the second series of tests, how will it be more well represented in a real scenario? This bag is what we use to enable the tests. So if you look at these large diameter holes, those are what connects up to these tubes, and these tubes send and return to our gas mixing system. So we recirculate air and add flammable gas until we achieve the concentration that we want to get for our test. This tube here connects to our gas measurement instrumentation, and that's how we're monitoring control, and that's how we know when we achieve our target. When we achieve our target, we ignite the test. When we ignite our test, this is actually one of our measurement stations. There's one inside the garage and 3 outside the garage. And this is sort of our belt and suspenders way of making sure that we measure pressures from these tests. This first instrument here is called a pencil probe. Basically, this device enables a blast wave to come off and move across this probe unbroken. And then on this side, this overall device is called the bikini gauge, named basically after the Bikini Islands when there's atomic testing going on in the 50s and 60s. If this hole breaks out, it tells us at what pressure that blast wave hit this gauge. And so pressure equals force over area, so the different size circles enable us to understand what different pressures were measured. But we also have this window here we've installed in the wall. It's borosilicate glass, but enables us to safely mount our high-speed camera on the other side of this wall. And we're running that at about 3,000 frames per second, and that enables us to understand how well the combustion is occurring inside that bag as we conduct each explosion test. All of this allows us to understand what types of pressures are being developed inside the garage based on the size of explosion we have, and as well what type of exposure there would be to a person, God forbid they were standing inside this garage during an explosion. So at the end of this test series, we are looking to do one test. In particular, it's actually a repeat of a test that we conducted inside our laboratory in Northbrook. We had real batteries propagate and thermal runaway, released a lot of gas, created a lot of smoke. That ignited and we saw an explosion. So we're looking to recreate that particular test. We can now have this real representation of an actual structure and see how that would cause damage. On the more ideal calculation side, we can see what's the maximum possible hazard. And then we can go all the way through to say, we saw a hazard in the test, let's recreate